A long time ago, I used to have a problem going to sleep. I always would get these weird dreams, short weird dreams where uh, it's like kind of anxiety kind of things. I used to get these really short dreams that were just troubling, where I'd wake up, like see something scary or something like that, or something dangerous or whatever. And for me, scary is not monsters and ghosts. No, no, no. Scary is like life situations, yeah, where it's like I'm going to university and I'm always late for classes, and my financial what do you call it, scholarships and stuff like that are are going to be threatened to be taken from me. That kind of scary. But they would be really fast dreams, yeah. And I would wake up, but not completely. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And I think more people need to talk about these things because it happens to everybody. And I think people are just scared to talk about it because sometimes there's troubling things that happen at this stage where you're waking up, you are up, but in a way you're not. Yeah, it's like you're half. You're between being awake and between being asleep. And sometimes there's, like for me, sometimes it's like my body will not react. And I'm trying, yeah, I'm trying to wake up and just shake yourself or whatever, to really find something inside of you to just jerk yourself so you wake up. Or like in the dream, one of my dreams in my old bedroom and the last place I lived, what I did is in the dream, yeah, I climbed on the bed and threw myself on the floor as hard as I could to try to wake myself up. It didn't work. Yeah, I was still in that phase, and but I couldn't move. Yeah, just laying there. So it's really troubling. Sometimes, you experience something, and you just it totally makes sense in the dream, but when you wake up and you try to draw it, it just don't even make sense. Yeah, like like say for example, you're on some kind of vehicle that you're just there. Yeah, you're whether you're sitting or in some cases laying down, and you're going on these roads, and maybe you're with people, maybe you're by yourself, and you just go and go and go, and then you slow down. Maybe you need to stop someplace or whatever. So you this thing seems to just stop. Yeah. So you get up and you do whatever you're gonna do, and then you put this thing back on a road again or the ground, and you lay down on it or sit on it or whatever, and you're not clear exactly what's going on, but you're moving again. All of a sudden, yeah, you're heading down the road again, and but as you're starting to, you're going to things happen that indicate that you're starting to wake up. Like suddenly that machine don't work anymore, or it takes a longer time to start it. It slows down, yeah, and then you pick it up. Now you're holding it, yeah, and then you're standing out in the highway someplace, where there's a bus stop, even though maybe you even know this highway, but in reality there is no bus stop there. But in the dream, you totally remember it being there as if it was always there. And so you stand there and you're like wondering, what happens next, and then you look at your this vehicle. You look at it and you're like, okay, and then you start looking around, yeah, and then you wake up and then you think about this thing that you were holding in your hand, and you realize it was just a board with some wheels on it. There was no steering mechanism. There's no machine. Yeah, maybe there was some strings, to turn the wheels, like a go-kart. But in the dream, this thing was moving like a car. Huh? And when you draw it, it don't even make sense. There's no logic to it. That after you draw it on paper, if you can remember it, because a lot of people can't. But if you can remember it, you draw it on paper, and it's like, if you were to build this thing, it wouldn't even go, because it just, the laws of physics just would not permit this thing to go. But in a dream, you're flying all over the place. You know what I mean? That's the weirdness of dreams, and and so it's hard to. Sometimes it's hard to describe that, though. Yeah, that this vehicle. Sometimes it's hard to remember what it is, but sometimes maybe a little bit later you're in a completely different dream, but yet you have the same vehicle. Yeah, and you were cruising around like nothing. You know what I mean? And it's totally weird, but you can't remember what it looks like. Yeah. See, this is what I mean. When sometimes in a dream, you experience something or somebody, and you totally in the dream know what it looks like or remember it. Maybe it even has a name. Maybe it even talks. But when you wake up, you just cannot describe it. Yeah, it's just completely beyond description, beyond words, and you can't even remember how to draw it. And some people also, like, right when they wake up, they feel and seeing something present in their room. It's hard for them to describe because that's how it is in dreams. And it's like, as soon as they come completely awake, it's totally gone. See, this is what happens. So that's why when I say, when people who are waking up and they kind of seem to get caught between the sleep and consciousness, they describe a presence. They feel they are awake, and some people can even sense their room. Yeah, that they're laying on the bed or the couch or whatever. They can even sense. They can see everything, and some people even describe seeing something there. And it might even be something dangerous. That it makes people feel fear, and it's scary. I was reading this, doing my research on this, and I found some cases that are very disturbing. Where one guy, when he was waking up, he got caught in this stage of sleep, and he felt a presence. He was sleeping on his stomach, and he felt a presence laying on top of him, yeah, on his back, and that this presence was trying to penetrate him anally. And so he was trying to shake it off, but it seemed to hold him down. Yeah? And then in an instant he jerked and he was totally awake. And there's nothing there. But he felt it. Yeah, and that stage between sleep, he felt this, like there was a body on top of him, even though there was nothing there. Yeah, you know how that is when somebody's laying on you, you feel, your skin gets pushed in a little bit, and because of their weight, and he felt all that, and then he felt like something is trying to penetrate him anally, and so he's trying to shake it off, and it won't get off, and then finally he really jerks his body totally, and then he's up, wakes up, and looks around the room, and there's absolutely nothing there. Or what about when you have dreams and there's and you come to this area in this stage of sleep between waking up, and then you see somebody that's dead, and they walk into a closet. Yeah, as they open they're in the room with you, and then when as you're slowly opening your eyes, you see them, and there's a closet that the door's closed. They open the door and they walk in there, and then they close the door. See, that's freaky, huh? I think you got to be careful when you are going through this, because you have to remember a part of you is still asleep. And I think people make the mistake of thinking that they are totally awake at that point. In reality, they may not be. Yeah. In reality, they may what they're seeing might actually be a part of the dream. It's the dream that's fading, and the mind is assigning it what to do. Yeah, your mind is very complex, and it's just following a pattern. If you're coming from the dream world into reality, and there's people involved, the mind has to find a way to display a reason that the people would go. Yeah. So it's not like maybe in some cases it just vanished, but the mind, depending on your personality, which is really the key here, will follow a pattern. Yeah, and will what do you call it? The characters in your dream will then follow that pattern. So those people are not really there. It's your mind that's showing you these things, and it's all following patterns. Like maybe you have a fascination with this movie, the story, with the Narnia, and you just don't want to admit it. Yeah? And so so that pattern is there. So then you see something, or someone, yeah, in your dream, and then you're waking up, and then the patterns are there, so the patterns just kind of merge. And thus, you see the person walking into your closet. You see, it's not as literal as things appear to be in dreams. Yeah, because that's when you're talking about reality beginning within, which is the basic Lakota star knowledge concept. Then you have to realize that. See, since dreams the scenery can change real quick, and you can experience all kinds of things, like flying. You can fly in your dreams. You can run faster than hell. This is showing you that in dreams, all kinds of things can appear that don't make sense. So, as you're waking up, you have to remember that characteristic, that if you get caught in this in-between, between sleep and between waking up, and you get caught there, usually it might be because of anxiety. It might be that you're having a sleep disorder, a physical sleep disorder. So your mind is trying to fit, yeah. If you're having trouble waking up because of a sleeping disorder caused by your body, like you're overweight, yeah, and the mind is trying to fit, yeah. It's trying to, especially if you're still seeing things in your dream, your mind is going to try to make those things follow what's going on with your body. So therefore, things are not going to make sense. Yeah. So you're going to experience some weird things. But this thing with the guy, where he's felt that somebody was was penetrating him. I think this really has to be looked into, yeah, because it might be representative of something that happened in his past and he's blocking, or something else that represents loss of control. Yeah, that in his life he feels loss of control somehow. That he's feeling inadequate. He's feeling inferior, and he's trying to deny that. And so this might be a representation of that. So that's why I said it really needs to be explored, because it could be a number of things, and it could be a combination of things too. I mean, one time I woke up and I swear to God somebody was sitting on the foot of my mattress. Because as I opened my eyes, I felt that mattress like somebody stood up. Huh? But like I said, most likely that's my mind registering these things. Yeah, and we have to be careful to try to interpret that immediately, because we have to let it gel. But it's important to write it down right away. Yeah, if you feel it's significant, troubling, or whatever, or good, sometimes it might be a good dream, then you should write it down. Yeah, just write whatever you can remember. Write it down, and then later, after you've done other things, you can take a look at it and see maybe it makes sense now. Yeah, but sometimes you may not understand it right away. That's why it's good to write it down, because otherwise you're gonna forget it. Yeah. So, but anyway, these are things that are some people believe that this is where demons live, because in the world between that when we are just before we are waking up, that we're actually in tune with the unseen world, and so that these things are there, and this is this is their explanation for demonic possession and all that kind of thing. And I think what that is that's like looking at driving by a building that has a bunch of colorful lights outside, arrows pointing to the door, but there's no windows. Yeah, you drive by a building, you see a building, maybe you drive by it in the nighttime, you see this building and all kinds of lights, and maybe there's a name on the building, and you think, this looks like a pretty cool place. Yeah, you drive by there all the time on your way to work or whatever, and you're thinking, I gotta check this place out once. I wonder what this is. But every time you get home, you forget to, Google it. So you're doing other things, yeah. And so, so you drive by it during the daytime, and it's still like that. Yeah, lights are up and everything, and these these arrows are pointing to the door with lights flashing. Come on in, kind of thing, and the lights are just colorful, really friendly looking lights, but there's no windows, but there's a bunch of cars in the parking lot. So you're thinking, I wonder if this is some kind of a factory, because a lot of factories are like that. Yeah, they don't have any lights or anything. I mean, they don't have any windows or anything because of they have to, maybe it's because of health risk or whatever. So you're thinking maybe this is a toy factory. Yeah. So you go, you try to make yourself remember what it is. So you come up with all these ideas. Yeah. You're trying to describe what's inside, but you don't really know. Huh? Unless you go in there. That's what a lot of people do to this pre-awake world. Yeah, this world between sleep and consciousness. The world between the subconscious and the conscious. People think there's a world between there, and that this is where all those dangerous things are. Yeah. So they think this is where demons are roaming around and ready to make things bad happen to you and to molest you and all these kind of things. And what I'm saying is that that's like trying to describe the store that I'm telling you about. Yeah, that you see all these really nice lights and when you look at the cars that are parked in the parking lot looks really nice too. Yeah, really nice parking, paved like it's brand new. And the cars that are parked out there are really nice cars. Yeah, there's all kinds of cars. They're all brand new. So you're wondering, what kind of business is that? Yeah. So you think, you think it might be a toy factory. You think it might be. It can't be a bakery because when you drive by bakeries, you can smell that. Really smells good. Yeah. On the Autobahn, that when you're coming from the west and coming to where I live in Berlin, you're gonna pass by a bakery factory. Yeah, a really big one. And it really smells good when you come through there. Yeah, it's like a cookie factory or something. It just smells sweet. Yeah. So this business that I'm trying to explain to you cannot be a bakery. So that's why I'm thinking, maybe it could be a toy factory. Maybe it's something that makes party, whatever. Then you think, maybe it's a movie studio. Then you think, maybe it's a recording studio because sometimes, there's big time recording studios where famous singers come there, famous bands, but they don't want it to be known. So these businesses will not have their names on the outside. Yeah, so it looks like a normal business. Some of course will make it look like a warehouse, yeah, so that you won't even think that there's famous people in there recording. So you have all these thoughts about what could this business be, and you're just thinking and thinking and thinking, and you'll never know until you actually walk in. So you decide, okay, I'm gonna check it out. So you so you drive in there. Maybe you want to share the experience with your girlfriend, or if you're a girl, then with your boyfriend. So you stop there with your partner, and then you say, let's check this out. Okay. So you go in there, and you're expecting to see, you're all excited because now you're finally going to find out what this building is. So you walk in there, and then there's a little entrance way, and there's, really some more flashing lights, but there's also some really nice plants, and the walls are all pink. Yeah, and you're thinking, this is really classy, yeah, because it's really a classy joint, and then a lady walks out. Yeah, and she says she's really smiling, yeah. And she says, "Are there just two of you in this party?" And then you say, "Yeah." So you start thinking, it must be a restaurant, yeah. So she comes out and brings, she says, "Come to this room, and I'll be right with you." She says, and she's really pretty and just dressed classy. So you're thinking, oh man, maybe we underdressed, yeah? And so you ask her, is there a dress code? And she said, no, there's not. It's not a dress code here. And then she smiles and she winks. And so she turns around. And she comes back with 2 tall glasses of champagne. And then she says, okay, the available candidates will become walking in, and you can, you know, first of all, let me, are you familiar with our policy? And then you say, no, this is our first time. This is okay. So she says, okay, this our policy is cash. You know, I mean not cash. You have to pay first. We do accept all major credit cards, and the price includes a meal at our buffet restaurant. It's all classy food. She says you can, and all the champagne you want to drink, and it includes the hot tub. It includes sauna if you would like to relax before the main course. She winks at you, and then she'll say, um, "Have you brought protection?" And then you're like, "Huh?" And it's just, okay, the price includes that too, just in case. So that's why the price is a little bit high. So I'm explaining to you everything that's included with the price. And it also includes shower facilities for when you're done. And we have rates. She'll say you can have if you'd rather choose the hourly rate or if you would like the full experience. She said we have a afternoon rate, you know, the because you showed up in the afternoon, yeah. So she'll say we have an afternoon rate in which you can be here for 3 hours, and so you can take your time, yeah, with the restaurant, and there's a jacuzzi, there's a swimming pool. So you're starting to think, oh, it's a health club, yeah. Wow, this is classy, yeah. So you're all excited, and your partner's excited too, and then she says, so you say, okay, we you know we this is the first time we came. We want to really experience the total experience of this. So we're going to pay for the afternoon package for both of us, and because she shows them the menu, and it's really fancy meals, yeah, really nice meals, and so you're like, okay, cool, yeah. And they have exotic meals, you know, like exotic meats from different parts of the world. Maybe they have this what do they call that? That Japanese steak, Kobe steak, is that what they call it? They have that there. They have all kinds of things, caviar, eels, wild yak, meat from a wild yak, you know, things. Just foods from all over the world. So you're thinking, this must be one classy joint, yeah. And then she says, okay, you can. Here's your house coats. She says, his and hers, yeah. So you're like, oh wow, because now you think it's a house club, yeah. So she says, there's a men's dressing areas there and a women's dressing areas there. So if you would like to go ahead and disrobe and then come out and meet the candidates, and then so you say okay. Yeah, so you go in and you're taking you're in the men's area, your partner's in the women's area, and you're getting into your robes. Then you're thinking, what the heck does she mean by candidates? So you come out and you meet your partner, and you ask your partner, what do you think she means by candidates? So your partner is saying, I think that's probably our you know, the people who are going to give us massage. Ah, cool. Okay, so we can choose if we want a girl masseuse or a boy masseuse. Yeah. Oh, cool. How cool is that? And she's like, I know, this is so exciting. Yeah. So then you're sitting there waiting. Both of you are just wearing your what do you call it? House coats, bathrobes, I should say. Would be a better way to say that. Bathrobe, and they're really classy. Yeah. They have the logo of the business on the back, and they're really nice, yeah. And you got slippers, and those are also classy. And the slippers you can keep, yeah. They're the part of the price, and also the house robe. So you're thinking, wow, how cool is that, yeah? No wonder it's so expensive here, because you're also getting to keep the house robe and the slippers, yeah. It's nice. So you're sitting there, and then the lady comes back, And she says, "Would you like to meet your candidates now?" And then you say, "Yeah." So here come all these girls walking in, yeah, and they're 100% naked, yeah. And you're sitting there. Okay, what's going on here? Yeah, you're all giggles and everything because you've never been to a place like this before. And of course, your partner is smarter than you because she's a woman, and she looks at you and says, "Dear, why did you bring me to a brothel?" And you're like, "Oh shoot, okay." Oh man, well I'll pick that one. Then your girlfriend walks out. Yeah? Oh man, so all that time that was a brothel, yeah, and you thought it was all these other things, but see, you didn't know until you went inside. Sometimes dreams are like this too, that they may appear to be a certain way, but until you actually really go into it, you won't really know. Yeah. So a lot of people see these things and they just think that this is the world of the demons. This is the world of all that, but really it isn't. Those are representations of your situation in life at the moment, whether that's uh, uh, um, a denial, an emotional denial, or emotional or a mental disorder. Yeah, that's showing itself as a person, and it's showing itself according to your thought patterns and what do you think of this, when you hear the word demon, what comes to your mind? And you're going to form that all based on things you experienced in your life, which is going to be probably the Exorcist movie, other things like that. Then your mind's going to present something that's going to appear similar, not exact, okay, but similar to what you associate with that topic. And so, if you don't go into it, you're going to think, that's the world of the demons, when really it's not. It's your mind that is showing you. It's trying to show you something that you need to take care of. You see what I mean? So when you dream of something, even in the dream itself, the same rule applies that you don't take things literally, because most situations it's going to be the incorrect interpretation to do so. Yeah. So this is the thought on that. We have to be careful about looking at a dream and taking it literally, because it may not be. It may be a representation of something else. It may be symbolical. It may be a puzzle piece. Yeah, maybe you saw the whole puzzle, but when you woke up, you only remember that one piece. Yeah, so you have to remember that as well too. That what you remember from your dream may only be of one part. It may not be the whole thing. Okay, you have to be aware of that. So that's why I said don't take things literally. Okay. Since reality begins within, this is a very basic concept in our ancient way, that dreams are also coming from there. So we have to keep that in mind. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about in the dream world, that sometimes things can appear um, shocking, and we have to be careful that we don't uh, interpret it too literally, because what it means may not be so literal either. So This is why it's important to write it down, yeah, and then think about it later, because then you've cleared your mind, and so now that leaves room for interpretation. Yeah, now you can begin to find, does it mean something, or things like that. So that's why we have to be careful that we don't take things too literal, that we take the time. I was just thinking of some other things here concerning how things are symbolic, how that we have to learn that sometimes. And what we have to be careful, though, is the cultural aspect, too. Because, like, somebody might think, like, I dreamt I was being chased around by this giant pink monster, and it just had hair on it, yeah, no arms, but it had legs. It was just like taller than me, and it was all pink, and it was chasing me. So right away, somebody might say, "Oh, that's your fear of vaginas." Yeah, you have a sexual inadequacy issue that you need to deal with. Maybe in some cultures that's correct, okay? But when you're raised in another culture, that might be something completely different. Yeah? That might be, like you come from a culture where, let's say your society is poor, and when you eat, it's never too much, and what you eat is mostly soup related. Yeah, that it's bean soup, or boiled potatoes, or it's always food that is really cheap, and you don't really eat too much because there's really not enough to go around. You just maybe have enough for a few bites, and you're coming from a society that is high in poverty. And in America, there used, I don't know if this exists anymore because I haven't been there for 11 years, but there used to be this junk food called for crying out loud, I can't even remember the name of it. It was made by a company called Hostess. And some of you probably know what I'm trying to describe here. It's like a Twinkie, a Hostess Twinkie, but it's pink and it has coconut pieces around it. If you remember, anybody remember what that was called? Shoot, I forgot what that was called. I was almost said Twizzlers, but that's a licorice. Oh man, what was it called? Let's see here. I got the Hostess website in front of me, so I'm trying to locate. Jeez, Zingers. There it is. Yeah, it has a creamy inside. It's a Zinger. All right. So Zingers. Let's say that when you were a little kid, this stuff didn't exist, yeah, until you got older. So it's really foreign to your what you're used to eating, yeah. So let's say that's actually what it is. Is your let's say this junk food represents something. Maybe it represents materialism. Yeah, maybe it represents the temptation to since you're coming from a poverty situation, that, and don't get me wrong, this junk food is cheaper than hell. Okay, but let's say this is something that represents that world of materialism, of unhealthy living, And so, when maybe you have thoughts on this, and maybe you ate one before and you really liked it, but and then you're like, okay, now you become an adult and you get a job, yeah. So now you can have things that you couldn't when you were a little kid. So you buy boxes and boxes of zingers. Yeah, and now this is in part of, maybe 4, 5, 10 of them are part of every meal. That's what you call your dessert. And so maybe what this is trying to tell you is that you're getting diabetes. Yeah, and maybe this thing you're seeing is really one of these zingers. Yeah, this pink zinger. Do you see what I mean? Every culture has different symbols, so you can't say that when there's these so-called Book of Dreams symbols. You can't say that because you saw a giant worm creeping along the highway on the desolate road. You can't say that means the same thing for everybody on this planet. You cannot say that because there's different cultures. One culture might say this is sexual inadequacy, that a person is obsessed concerning the size of their penis, that they have a inferiority complex concerning that. You see what I mean? And so that's kind of leading them on the road to impotency. That might mean that for that society, but for another culture, it might mean something different. Yeah? Like some people have dreams of their teeth falling out. Some cultures believe that means that they're going to gain something. And another culture might say that they're headed for disaster. I've heard both interpretations in my life for that one. Yeah. So it always depends on your culture. You have to know your culture. So in other words, this is really interesting. If an Indian guy today, a young Indian man, okay, in his 30s and 40s, maybe 20s, let's say he has a dream of this pink monster chasing him around. Which interpretation may be the one for him? That he's afraid of vaginas, that he has a sexual inadequacy issue, or that he is going to get diabetes? Which one do you think is going to fit this man? The answer is sexual inadequacy. The reason why is because most young Indians today do not know their own culture. The only culture they know is the Western world. That's all they're exposed to. Even if they go to sweat ceremonies, inipi ceremonies and sun dances, I guarantee you 100% of young Indian people cannot speak the language. That's the generation that the language is already dead. They might know how to say how kola and ambetuki lewashte, but if you ask them to carry on a couple-hour conversation, they're not even going to get past 10 minutes. Because all they can do is tell you about the day, the weather, what day it is, maybe what time it is. That's it. As concerning, what do you think about this? Yeah, what do you think about what's happening in the world today concerning this ISIS? What do you think about that? I guarantee you, not one Lakota young person can explain that in Lakota. I guarantee you that 100%. Like I said, they might know how to say, this horse is black. I have 2 dogs. I have a girlfriend. They might know how to say these things. But to carry on a conversation, not one of them can do it. I know this. I know this for a fact. So they don't know their culture either. Language and culture goes together. So the interpretation that's going to fit a young Indian person is going to be the same one that fits white people. That's interesting, yeah? Most young Indians today, even though they might have taken Lakota language in university, they're not fluent speakers. Yeah? No matter how brown their skin is, no matter how many ceremonies they've gone to, they cannot speak the language. And if you're not fluent in the language, you really don't know your culture. Because the language has a perspective to it. And you have to know what that is. That's why the reason young people today, when they try to speak Lakota, what they do is they translate sentences that are normal in English, like good morning. They'll say hihani washte, which technically is correct. However, real Lakota fluent speakers never say that. Because that's something different. That's a different perspective. If you just say hihani washte, a fluent speaker is going to think you're cold-hearted. Because that's all you said. Lakota language is meant to be spoken so that the words embrace the person you're speaking to. So if you just say hihani washte, it's like they're going to think you don't really want to be there. Even though you're standing there smiling. They might think you're a jackass. Are you a politician? Why are you smiling like that? You see what I mean? You don't just say hihani washte. Yeah? You might say something like hihani lila washte cha heha yomakpi. Yeah? I really feel good this morning. See, you're really saying a lot of things here. And this is really explaining to that person what you're feeling. Our language really shows emotion. And if you don't display that in the language, that shows you do not know the culture or the perspective. This is why a lot of young people say hihani washte for good morning. And we never say that. My mother, my grandparents, my father, they've never said that expression. That's why I said if you just talk like that, it shows you're cold-hearted. Another one, Ampetu washte yuha. Have a nice day. Nobody ever says that. Because yuha means to literally have something in your hand. How can you have a day in your hands? Or to literally have something, to possess it. Do you see what I mean? Doesn't make sense. So young people today, when they're trying to talk from the white person's perspective, not the Indian. And that's killing the language too. So today most people on the reservations, most Indians believe in incorrect definitions of the language. And because they don't have that perspective anymore, when they have dreams, the symbols are not having definitions of their culture because they don't know their own culture. What they know is a Christianized form of their culture. So that means whatever dreams they have, the symbols are going to come from that Christian culture as well, but not the Lakota Star Knowledge culture. You see what I mean? So just because you're an Indian does not mean that Indian dream symbols apply to you. It only applies to you when you live Lakota Star Knowledge concepts. Likewise, there are people who are not Lakota, like my students. A lot of them are not Lakota. They're from other parts of the world, but they know the Lakota perspective. They can speak Lakota language. I got some fluent speakers already. And they speak it from the Lakota perspective. So when they have dreams, they have an interesting situation because some of my students are really, really following Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality. So their dreams the symbolism may actually be based on the Lakota star knowledge and not the culture they come from. So it's a really interesting situation. You see what I mean? So just because you're a certain culture, if you believe a different kind of a belief system, then your dream symbols are going to be based on that belief system and not necessarily your culture. Yeah. So these are all things you have to take into consideration when you're talking about the world of dreams. What is your belief system? Yeah. What does that mean? I had another experience. This is somebody that told me this story. That they dreamt they were another person. Not from a past lifetime. I mean, right now. They literally dreamt they were another person. And they went to a dream interpreter, and that dream interpreter said, well, no, that means you're supposed to become homosexual, and that you're trying to deny that. I had to laugh. And I was like, oh, okay. And so this person asked me, what do you think? And I said to him, what is your culture? What do you believe in? Are you a Christian? Do you believe in heaven and hell? And he said, no. I do believe there's an afterlife, he said, but I don't believe in good versus evil, he said. And I don't believe in God or Satan. And I don't believe in Jesus, and I don't believe in any Christian religion, he said. And I said, okay, that's a good thing. Now I'm getting a better understanding of your way of thinking. And I said, this may not have anything to do with sexuality at all. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you the answer because that person might be listening, okay? And I want to show them respect. But the interpretation was not sexual in nature at all. The interpretation was more along the lines of a change, but nothing sexual, nothing gender related, okay? And so when I explained what I thought, it made total sense to him. And so I said, don't force it. I said, don't push it. Just think on it. And for the next few days, I said, just go about doing things you normally did in your life. So don't make any changes right now. Just the next few days. I said, come back to see me next week. I said, because I want to make sure. And sure enough, something happened. Yeah, he relaxed during that time period, didn't do anything out of the ordinary, and the change found him. It was really a good change. Yeah, had nothing to do with sex at all. So you see, your belief system really is going to define what these symbols mean. If you're a dualistic person, then your interpretations are going to be that way too. That's just the way it is. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, that what one person sees may not mean the same thing for another person. And we have a ceremony in our culture called Hanbleciya. That means crying for a vision. It's a ceremony where men go on a hill for 4 days and 4 nights without food. They're not even supposed to sleep. Yeah, but today people really cheat. Yeah, people go up there and take a bottle of water, and they say that, okay, I can drink water, and they take naps, and they really don't do it the original way today. And then they might have a dream, and they think that's their vision. and so they really get that mixed up. Let's say 2 guys go up on 2 different hills in 2 different locations that are 1,000 miles apart from each other. These two men don't know each other, but they go up on the hill on in where they live, and they do this vision with a helper. Yeah? You can't do this by yourself. The reason why is that there are places between consciousness and subconscious that lead to really unhealthy realms. Okay, now I'm going to get back to this in a few minutes. Okay, so anyway, let's say both of these men, they have somebody to help them do their ceremony, and then they see that they do it correctly. Okay, and they both come down. They go up at the same time, and they both come down at the same time. 4 days later, yeah. See, even if you get your vision on the first day, you still have to stay up there. It's supposed to be 4 days. So if you get it on the first night, you still stay there for the following 3. You don't come down, because if you come down within that 4 days, then it's lost. It's broken. And you have to wait till a year later to try again. Okay? You can't just do it the next weekend. All right? Has to do with the cycle of a man. It's a yearly thing. All right? So anyway, so let's say these two guys come down from the hill, and they both saw exactly the same thing. Let's say they both saw a horse. Let's say they both saw black horses. And it was daytime in both visions. But that horse means something different to each man. It doesn't mean the same thing. It's based on the person's personality. Yeah, so the definition is going to be different for each man. And it's all going to depend on what did the horse do? Which way was it? Which direction was it facing? This is really important. So when people come down from the hill, they have to say exactly what happened. They can't leave anything out, and they can't add anything to it, because if they do, then the power is gone from that vision. Then they have to wait another year to try again. Yeah. Now the reason why they need a helper is usually a holy person, somebody who sits inside a sweat lodge all during that time. Yeah. So he has to sit inside the sweat lodge when you go up on the hill. And when you come down, you go to the sweat lodge, or he may come after you too. That's the other thing. Yeah. So that then either way, you have to go inside the sweat lodge after your ceremony is over, your 4 days, and in the lodge you tell everything that you saw and heard. You don't leave anything out and don't add anything. Otherwise, it loses power. When you're doing this, when you're telling it, what you're doing is you're opening up its medicine. Because it may be something to not only help you, but it may be to help others too. And remember, when you help others, you're sending a communication out. That's healthy energy, and that's going to come back to you 4 times as strong to bless you. This is why it's important to make sure you don't forget any part of that vision. Yeah? So, when the holy person is sitting inside the sweat lodge, he's going to tune into you. Okay? So he's going to tune into your mind. The mind has 4 parts. One part is right now, we're awake, doing this show. Yeah? You're listening to me talk. This is the one part. Then there's 2 parts that deal with they're kind of in the middle. This is one part contains the memories of your life since you were born, and the other part contains information since your soul was created. That's not the same as when you were born. Okay? I'll just leave it like that. And then the fourth part is the sacred area. There's two pieces here, at least two pieces here that are sacred. Alright? What are they? I'm not going to tell you. Because there could be New Agers listening, right, taking down notes. And they're going to try to do this. And I'm not going to allow that. So you either have to contact me, or my students know what this is, or you've been to one of my seminars and then you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So these holy people are sitting inside the sweat lodge as you are on the hill, and so they tune into your mind. They go. What you're going to do is you're going to go from the awake world right now to the sacred area without going to sleep. Because the middle two areas, you can tap into them, but only when you're asleep. Yeah, so that's why I says think about that. Remember I said Lakota Star Knowledge teaches that reality begins within, so that the dreams are part of that within. Do you see what I mean now? So in these two middle areas, there are paths going towards other realms, and some of those realms may not be healthy. So something may come through there, an energy or something may come through there and appear to you as someone you know who's dead. And they're going to take all that information from your memories. And from that, they can sound like that person. They can look like that person. And they know your memories because they took that information from your memories. So they might say to you, remember that time we were climbing the tree? And then they're going to do that to convince you that that's the dead person, when really it isn't. But you might think it is, because you're going to say to yourself, who else would know that? But see, I just told you how they tricked you. And that can lead to mental illness. That can lead to schizophrenia. Yeah, and the thing is, you're the only person who's going to see it. But the holy person knows it's happening. Yeah, he can see it too. So when something like that tries to come in from the sweat lodge, the holy person is going to deal with it and drive it away while you're making that trip from the awake world to that sacred area inside of you. So if anything unhealthy comes through there, the middle two areas, the holy person is going to push it out. He has the way to do it. Okay? He has the spiritual help to do that. That's why you need somebody. Because if you don't have this holy person, you try this yourself. Like I just said, an energy can come through one of these unhealthy areas, and it's going to read your mind, and it's going to know somebody that you really love and you really miss, and it's going to appear as that person. Or it may read your mind, it may read your sexual fantasies and appear as a naked woman based on those fantasies, and try to tempt you to leave that hill. And if you follow it, now you're heading towards mental illness. And then it might have you see things, and you're going to think that's your vision, and really it's not. It's messing with you. It's bringing you down. It's going to take you down the road of craziness. You don't have that power to deal with that. That's why you need a holy person. So I heard of people saying, yeah, I'm going to go to Bear Butte this weekend. I'm going to do a 2-day Hanbleciya. That's bullshit. Yeah, it's supposed to be 4. There's a reason why. Yeah, there is a reason why. And if you get it on the first night, you have to stay up. You still have to stay up there to the other nights. And you've got to have a holy person doing this. I heard of a man one time, he got a medicine man from Red Scaffold, South Dakota. There's two of them there. He got one of them, and he said he wanted to do a Hanbleciya at Bear Butte. This is a sacred area for Lakota people. And he said, I want to do a Hanbleciya there. Could you help me? So the guy said, okay. And I said, you have to give me gas money. I need some money to eat too. So he said, oh, okay, no problem. So they did that. So they went to Bear Butte, and they set up camp, and then this medicine man took him to the place where he's supposed to stand on the hill to cry for his vision. Then he left. The Hanbleciya candidate, his wife was down at the foot of the mountain, and where they had a tent set up. Yeah, they had a tent set up there, so she could stay there and wait for him till his 4 days was over. This medicine man said to her, "I'll be back in 2 days." And she thought, "Aren't you supposed to stay here?" This medicine man, he didn't say anything. He just got in his car and took off. Went back to Cheyenne River Reservation, which is about 2 hours away, 2-hour drive. So the man had no clue. And see, the wife is not supposed to have contact, okay? So she followed her part. She followed her rule. Then 2 days later, this medicine man came back. He said, "Okay, I'm going to go get your husband." And then she said, "Wait a minute, isn't he supposed to be up there for 4 days?" So he said, "Okay, 1 more day," he said. And then she was shocked. And she was like, "You're supposed to be a medicine man. You act like you don't want to be here." This medicine man didn't say anything. Got in his car and took off again. So then the next day he came back. He said, "Okay, I'm going to go get your husband." So she pleaded with him. Just 1 more day. He's supposed to be up there 4 days, not 3. She was, practically begging with him. And then she said, "Okay, I'll give you $100 more. And then could you leave him up there 1 more day?" So he said, "Okay." So he took her $100, went back to his home. Then the 4th day, this medicine man came back, and he went up there and brought the man down. And that medicine man said a prayer over this man, and then he said, "Okay, you're done now." The medicine man took off, got in his car, and went back. And then so the man was like, "Wait a minute." He was talking to his wife, and he said, "I'm supposed to go and tell him what I saw. How come he didn't ask me?" And so she told him, "This guy's no good." She said, "He was going to bring you down 2 days later, so I begged him to leave you up there for 4 days." And then he said, "Oh, just 1 day." He said, so he took off, and then the husband said, "What do you mean he took off?" So he went back to Red Scaffold. And the man was like, "Geez, now I got to do this all over again." This medicine man didn't even do what he was supposed to do. Yeah? So he said, "I consider this totally bad," he said. And the wife said, "Yeah, he was going to take you down yesterday." And I said, "I knew you were supposed to be up there for 4 days." So he was on his way up. Yeah, he got his stuff, and he was going to go up to get you. So I jumped in front of him, and I offered him $100 if he would let you stay up there for 1 more day. So he took it, then he took off again. So the man was really furious at the medicine man. I said, "They're never going to use that guy again." You want to know the reason why the medicine man didn't stay there? Because the guy that was doing the Hanbleciya was from Rosebud. They're still Lakota, but even just because he was from Rosebud, this Red Scaffold guy didn't want to help him completely. He did it for the money. You see, it's really becoming corrupt today. Medicine men are charging money to do ceremonies. Real medicine men are becoming fake. That's really sad. You can tell when a medicine man's fake if he talks about good spirits and bad spirits. And if he talks like that, then you know he's fake. Because that's not what it's like. So, the vision, it was totally lost because the medicine man ruined it. The medicine man didn't do his part. The husband wanted to tell a medicine man down Rosebud what he saw, but he didn't know if that was right because you're supposed to tell the man who put you up there. So he went and Opari, a medicine man in Rosebud, and he told him, "What shall I do?" He asked him, "What shall I do?" Opari means you give tobacco to somebody, and it's when you need special help. And if they say they'll help you, they have to live up to the agreement. That's what Opari means. Yeah. So the holy man in Rosebud, he told him, he said, "Just do it over next year." He said, because that guy ruined it. Even if you did see something, he ruined it. He went against you. And so the safest thing, he said, is just to do it all over again. Something this sacred. So this guy said, "Yeah, I'm willing to do that." He said, because so the holy person from Rosebud was shocked, yeah, because he knew the guy from Red Scalpel, yeah, he knew him personally, so he was really shocked that he just drove out, yeah, that he went home. The holy person said, "You're supposed to sit inside the sweat lodge." He knows that. So he knew that he was becoming unhealthy. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that happens. It's all because of this dualistic thing that's existing on the reservation. So, like I said, you don't do this by yourself because of the danger of what could come from the two middle areas, and that could drive you crazy. And when you're asleep, remember what I was saying earlier, when you're asleep and you get caught between being asleep and being awake, this is not that area. Yeah, this is not that area where these unhealthy energies can come from. That's something different. The area between awake and asleep is your mind is firing all kinds of ways. So you see weird things. Yeah, but it might expose to you something you're denying or you're trying to keep away. Like maybe something bad happened to you, and you're trying to forget it. Yeah, in the time between being awake and asleep, that might leak out and expose itself to you, in a way to catch your attention. And that's where these people see these weird things. Yeah, the mind is very, very complex, and that is really an understatement. So that's why we have to be careful, and that when you see things, don't interpret them literally, because most of the time it might be symbolical, and a lot of times it might not mean anything at all. Okay? So I just ask that you think about that, nothing more. And this is based on Lakota Star knowledge. Yeah, this is all based on Lakota Star knowledge. Just keep that in mind. So good versus evil cannot fit in that.